We are live. Good early morning here from Johannesburg, South Africa. In the States, I know it's about 5:30 in the morning. My name is Marcus Bradley, and this is My Father and I. I'm the host and founder of the XY Perspective. And as the title states, I'm here with my dad. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning, son. How's everything?
We are good over here. It's in the afternoon for us, but it's chicken early, rooster early morning for you, right?
Yeah, we beat some of the insects up. So
Okay. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Today's show, and the reason I got you up is because of your career choice. It's not a special episode, but it's one that's needed to take place for a while now. I want to talk to you this morning, and we'll just get right into it. I want to talk to you this morning about your career in law enforcement. And the reason why I want to do that is because there's a situation going on now in Cincinnati, Ohio, where a young man was killed and his father the next day took vengeance, allegedly took vengeance on the police officers that were there, or one of the police officers or sheriff deputies that were there. So we're gonna discuss that, and we're gonna make sure that the people understand through your experience in law enforcement um, why police do the things that they do and what. Okay, I don't know what just happened right there. Maybe it's the connection so far away. So let's first tell me a little bit about your experience in all of your years in law enforcement.
all right. For me, law enforcement started back in 1981 when I joined the police academy and completed it and did my time in law enforcement up until I retired in 2022. So roughly 42 years of law enforcement background. Became a chief of police in when was that? 1995 is when I became a chief of police in a little small town. Roughly about 1,000 people resided in that town at the time. And it taught me quite a bit as far as being a chief administrator within a law enforcement community. There's quite a bit that falls on your plate, as they say, that you're responsible for. Then went on to be a captain at a university, and that too was a game changer as far as having to have law enforcement on a campus where you have thousands of responsible lives to be accountable for. But the gist of law enforcement is your training, what goes into it, what you entail, what you're compelled to know and to be accountable for and responsible for. Many years where you with agencies that require you to have continuous training, continuous education, things of that nature to help you be a better person, to help serve and protect that which you are responsible for. It's a lot that go into law enforcement, a lot that people know of that is within it. But for those that are not within law enforcement, it's difficult to grasp what it is and how much it is from the outside. And unfortunately, there's a lot of things that happen within law enforcement and in some agencies that you wish you could just really know the truth about what happens. And behind the scenes is quite a bit that also is not going to allow you to know all of the truth for all of the reasons that we already know. When things happen within a community, are you really going to tell the truth about what's happening and your part in it?
Okay. Now, and because that's interesting, because most of the time when there is an incident, the first thing, or majority of people say, well, they need to be retrained. They need to be retrained. They need to be retrained. Is training to an extent where the officers, and like de-escalation, let's just use that. Is that one of the major components of training, or is it glanced over and they just hope you get it as you go along? Like when they say an officer needs to be retrained, does that ever really happen?
Well, you can be trained. Retraining is, that all depends on the individual. If you want to be retrained, if you want help, if you can say within yourself, I made a mistake, I didn't approach this correctly. The decision that I made, really, I could have, if I had known a little bit more, had I been a little bit more seasoned in what my decision making is, yes, you can be retrained, because again, you can go through simulations to where you can make decisions, and you coached and shown that this is a different way. Here's a different way to approach it. It's just like anything else in life. If you have someone that takes the time to help you and you're seeking that, yes, you can be. But if your mind is already made up about what you're going to do and how you're going to do it, and the first chance I get, I'm going to just play along until I get out there and do what I want to do. You have to be aware that that's out there as well. And there are a lot of people who can cover themselves, put that face on, and be Mr. Goody Two Shoes and get out there, and you just never know what's on their mind to do and when they're going to do it. And it's
So,
unfortunate that that mindset is just as prevalent in law enforcement as it is in anything else in life.
and we saw that a lot in the military as well. We call those guys, those warmongers. They couldn't wait. They couldn't wait to get out there and do some stuff. So
Yeah.
we kind of had to leave those guys alone.
Mm-hmm.
But it so there is a blanket, and I'm speaking in general terms. There is a blanket uh, academy textbook, so to speak, that officers get trained at the academy with, and they're those basics get them enough to get out of the course, but then they have to do follow on and like you say, continuous training at the precinct or at the or when they arrive at their duty unit. And but you said they can cover up as well. Is there as a captain, as you said, or a chief, do you ever look in to make sure that they're compliant to those trainings and those rules and situations? Or do it just, it's a case by case basis? You got to deal with it when something comes up. Like, can you intentionally oversee some things and make sure it's getting done, or do you have to be reactive and wait till something happens?
It can happen both ways. I have seen small agencies. When I say small, sometime in your rural areas, uh, there's only 3 or 4 officers. Sometimes there's a chief and 2 other officers. That's it for the entire agency. And I can assure you that to send my officers off to training when they're going to be needed on the streets, protecting and whatever else needs to be done, it's going to be difficult to send them to training. Even if I get um, some experts or other agencies to come in and teach my officers? When do I have time to let them not work to train? So those situations can arise. And again, we're not trying to make excuses, but I have seen where there are some agencies that training goes far without having any training. There's
Okay.
times when training is just not part of what you do.
So that'll speak to my next point about the culture then inside those precincts. Now, and we spoke about it earlier, and you said that you never know the what may be par for the course for a certain situation or a certain city or a certain town. Like I said, those rural areas, things may be a little bit more lax, whereas in a big urban area, there may be a little bit more tight ship. Can you speak to police code just from your experience? Now, let's not assume, somewhere else. I know we're talking about Cincinnati, Ohio, but
Mhm.
I've never lived there, and I don't know if you have as well. But can you speak to your experience with the culture in the precincts where you were an officer and as captain, what you allowed and didn't allow? Did you get on them for hazing and things like that? So let's talk a little bit about the culture of a police precinct.
Okay. Well, the culture of law enforcement is just like the culture of any other profession. It is the people within and their mindset and what is permitted and what is not permitted. For me, I'm talking about me personally. As I was coming up as a first time on the street officer after coming out of the academy, I had the opportunity to ride and be a part of the entire city. In some instances, we were being trained, and you will be trained in this area for 6 weeks. Then you go and rotate to another area. So you had an opportunity to see the city, north, east, south, and west. That helps you to understand that on certain sides of town, this goes on. Other sides of town, this doesn't go on. So you begin to see that for yourself, and you enforce the law accordingly. Now, there are some areas they want you to be hands-on. You want to get out there. We're going to get this done. We're going to take care of this. They can't do this over here. And go to the other side of town, and my goodness, what in the world? It's like night and day. But again, so you understand that there's that type of culture in the larger urban areas. Um, it happens, and I was fortunate. And I say fortunate, I had training officers that took the time. My training officers put me through scenarios. It gave me the opportunity to think and to put situations within my own mind. What would I do? How would I call it in? What would I ask for? Do I need backup? Will I position my backup where it's needed? So those things helped me along very well, and it prepared me unknowingly for where I was heading within my own law enforcement career.
Mm.
Now, I did see things that I would never do. All this striking people and why they're in handcuffs, things that are being done to individuals. And when I made supervisor, especially when I became a sergeant after 1981, so after 7 years of being within the law enforcement family, I got promoted to the rank of corporal, then to the rank of sergeant 10 years into my career. That's the first level supervisor. As you
Mhm.
well know, within the military, how far a sergeant really, the authority that they have and what's given to them to do what needs to be done. Same thing
Yes,
within the
sir.
law enforcement community, your first level supervisor. It helped me to then see what I myself was not going to allow to happen. And I
Right.
made it explicitly clear, even though I had lieutenants and captains above me, that there was going to be a certain way that I policed. We're not going to get out and do things to people We're going to serve and protect. And it's difficult at times because, again, there's certain expectations that those supervisors above you want you to, quote unquote, go along with. And
Mm.
I had a sergeant, no, a major, to tell me, uh, play along, go along with what's going on, and you can go far within this in this community.
Yeah, I
And
got the same thing too.
yes, and but when they saw that I wasn't that type of person, then they tried to attack me because,
Right.
again, I'm not going along with the quote unquote program. And it
Yes,
was
sir.
when I left my first agency, the Montgomery Police Department, and went on, that is when I had my opportunity in 1995 to be a chief of police. And that helped define me and my profession. And the officers that worked with me as I continued to go on to the university, it people knew, and the word had gotten around that Tony Simmons, Captain Simmons, Chief Simmons, he's not that type of person. He's going to hold
Right.
you to your standards. You're going to go to training anywhere you want to go. If we have the funds to send you to get that training, you're going, and we're going to hold you accountable for it. And
Yes, sir.
there's not going to be any of this riffraff. And because, again, I'll bring you up on charges, not because I'm mean and low down. It's because that's just not going to be tolerated. That type of mindset, we're just not going to have it.
Okay. So you know how you police, and you trained your people to police the same way. And they got out of line, like you just said. Okay. That's how it was in the military as well. There's a standard. You don't make the standard, you get UCMJ, or you get some counseling or things like that. So the question I want to ask is it totally up to the officer's discretion when they're in the field? Or is there, do you have to train them enough to where they're like, I gotta follow these guidelines? Or is it totally up to them at their discretion on how they execute um, enforcing the law so that in their own eyes?
Well, they have discretion, obviously, but
Mhm.
it's not their discretion. It's the law. How do you apply the law? That's what their discretion is, how to apply the law that I know. If I know that there's a criminal charge, I see it. But first and foremost, do I have the probable cause to even engage in an incident? If there's nothing criminal, I have no reason to stop you. I have no reason to pull you over. I just can't pull you over just to pull you over. That's not the law and how it's applied, especially in law enforcement. There must be, and you have to establish probable cause to engage with a citizen or a person. If you witness a crime and you see it, now you act on it accordingly. If you need assistance, you call for what we know as backup. If you're a one-man officer and you need assistance, you call for it. And then decisions are made. But you should already have the discretion to know from what you have witnessed or what you have been sent on a call to do, what you're going to do. If you haven't thought about the call, if you're going to a disturbance call, then you should have an idea how to handle that call from your previous law enforcement experience. Uh,
Okay.
but again, we're still dealing with human beings,
Yes, sir.
and that's where issues typically come in. Because again, if I'm frustrated and I've read and heard about so much going on with some of these people, and they just need to be disciplined and they need to know, and sometimes I just don't care anything about that type of individual, that type of person, or that type of race of person, then I may enforce differently because of those feelings that I have. and the culture that I have come up with. And I've hidden it well. And then when I get the opportunity to express it, then here I go.
And that leads me to the point of the situation in Cincinnati, Ohio. That's the underlying national topic this week, or for the last couple of weeks. When you said there's different policing for different areas, something goes on in one place, it doesn't go on in another place. Now, the situation I'm talking about in Cincinnati, where the young man was sleeping with three of his friends in a stolen car, and police were notified the car's location, the low jack or whatever they had. Police roll up on the vehicle. The kids get out and run. Well, I say kids, but they were 18, so young adults, they get out and run. They go different ways. They follow one youngster, he trips. An alleged firearm hits the ground. From police speaking in their reports, the young man picks the weapon back up and continues to run, pointing it at the officers, where then he was then shot and killed. Police footage, of course, didn't show that because it was very, very blurry or very pixelated and just really wacky. But let's start with the stolen vehicle and the initial shooting of the son, because then we got to get to the father, who then did some extreme vengeance the next day. So, but as chief, I'll put you back in the chief chair for this. I know you love that. This is your department. Your officers are notified to a stolen vehicle. How were you trained to approach that situation in itself? An alleged stolen vehicle.
If there's a lookout that has been sent out, and as an officer we come upon that quote stolen vehicle, we then typically, if you're a one-man officer or one-man unit, you want to call for assistance, because again, stolen vehicles is a felony, and approaching a felony situation, it's a little bit different more, and the tactics that you use, you want to first get enough help there to secure what you have, because again, now you have a investigation that's going to have to start, and you make your approach to the vehicle as you are trained to do. Gun drawn.
Okay.
You're going to approach with a weapon in hand, and how you make your approach. You go up to the vehicle, and if you have visibility as far as occupants, now you want to bring them under your control. Whether you want to get them out of the vehicle, keep them in the vehicle, depends on the situation and your training within your agency. You want them out of the vehicle, then there are procedures to get them out of the vehicle one at a time, depending on where you want to start. Typically, you start with the driver, get them to exit the vehicle, and go through your putting them under control, putting them in your custody. And then you investigate from there. Once they are safely secured, the vehicle is cleared, and you start your investigation from there. If the persons are compliant, then there's typically no incident. Now, video cams and body cams, there should be understood that this type of equipment is going to always be tested. First and foremost, you bring it under test. You see that it has all the parameters as to what you need it to do for your agency and the protection of yourself, your officers, and your citizens. If it's all this graininess and you can't see it, why would you purchase that in the first place?
Yes, sir. But these didn't have this. Four young men. You got backup. I think it was 3 officers on scene. They all exit, run different ways. If based on your training, and I know it may be updated since you retired, if there was an assailant or inhabitant of the vehicle running away from you, even if you had a weapon, do you chase?
Again, you you realize within your discretion that if a person is running away from you, then the threat is not coming toward you.
Okay.
The threat is leaving you.
Okay.
Now, can you justify why you're chasing that individual? There are some rules of thought that if they are running, then they can be a threat to someone else that they may be running toward, or someone else just may be innocently not knowing what's happening. They can run and be a threat to that person. So as an officer, do you want to chase that individual to keep them from being a threat to someone else? That's one thought that you can use as to making your discretion. What do you do? In some agencies, yes, we do chase. In some agencies, they will say, if that person is running away, they're no threat to you, call it in, let the other officers that may be in the neighboring area, they can then come and let's see what we might be able to do to bring that person under control to get them in
Especially
custody.
if he's armed.
You know, if he's armed, yes, he can be a threat to someone else while they're running from you to hurt. He can harm someone else. Do you want to take that discretion to, from that state of mind, to chase that person to keep them from being a threat to someone else? Yes, you can chase, and you will. In some agencies, that's taught. Don't let this person hurt someone else.
Okay. Now, the young man was said to have tripped, dropped the firearm, picked it up, and ran in between two trash cans where another officer was waiting on the other side. Was said to been pointing the weapon at him, even though he was running away from him, which you would have to be like, I don't know, running and pointing. And then I think the officer may have fired 5 or 6 rounds, hitting him in the chest, the side, and the back. Um, if there's a if there's a shooting like that, is that officer then taken immediately away from the situation and debriefed, or does he have to stay on scene and be in that area right there, or do they remove him from the scene?
Now, once the situation from what you have just described has happened, the officer obviously is going to call all of that in, give his location where he is. Now we have a crime scene. Investigators come. Now, when you have an agency shooting, typically you want an outside agency, a neutral party to conduct the investigation. Until that neutral party or that other agency that's from the outside gets there, you're going to secure the scene. You're going to then collect that officer's weapon and all of the evidence that's there that needs to be collected or marked until that other outside agency gets there. But you will secure that officer because he's part of the crime scene itself as well. Now, once the crime scene has been secured and is turned over to that other agency, that officer is then taken to headquarters because he has paperwork to do, give statements and things of that nature as to what happened. And typically, you will see that officer placed on administrative duties until the investigation is completed and court proceedings have taken place as well.
Is his identity withheld?
That's typically an agency by agency decision. You can release that information, but typically your attorneys and the people on the law side of the attorneys things will make a decision as to whether or not to release that officer's identity. Very seldom do you see that officer's name displayed initially. As the court proceedings get closer, then obviously now is public information.
Right.
And the agency itself can then make a decision and probably getting advice from the attorneys whether or not to release that name or not. But at some point, it will be released.
Because we haven't heard the officer's name. We heard the young man's name many, many times, but we haven't seen the officer's name, which is why I was asking that question. Then, now, do the captains or chiefs have any input, or is it all public affairs on what they release to the news as far as body cam footage after it's been reviewed, or how long do you hold it? Is it doctored in any way, or is it like edited in any way to keep like names or faces or whatever of the officers? How long is that footage held, and are you as a captain or a chief involved in the release of that, or is just all a public affairs thing?
Well, even as the chief, even if I get an opportunity to view that footage, I'm still not at liberty to say anything about it because it's ongoing. Information that I see, I'm not going to be able to release it. Even if I wanted to, I can't. Because again, it's an ongoing investigation, and I definitely will continue to comply with the standard that any information that's being released could jeopardize the case itself, and not saying it's going to favor the agency in one way or the other. That's if you're being fair about what's being done. Again, now remember, in some agencies, the protection of their officer is paramount in some agencies. And that's going to happen. Even from the chief on up, they're going to do what they can to protect that officer. In some agencies, they want the truth. If my officer did wrong, well then, okay, here are the measures that we're going to take to see what we need to do to make this a better officer, if that's possible, and take full responsibility and accountability for that officer's actions.
Yeah. Now here's where it gets tricky. Now you're back in the captain. You're back in the chief's chair. You've decided to release, or your public affairs department has released some, obviously, from what we can see, because you said we wouldn't even purchase equipment that would show grainy footage while running. And I'm pretty sure that even a city like Cincinnati, as big as it is, would not invest in equipment for its officers that would leave any doubt. So I'm pretty sure that when you're running your camera, the anti-motion lenses that's in now, they probably don't even shake when you run. So they released some heavily grainy footage. Even the still shots, you couldn't see anything. And it was really, really obvious that something went on before they released this footage. And that made it to the news. The sad part is the son, the young man passed away, and the father was allowed to view the footage. The father then allegedly left the police precinct. And that's where it gets tricky again. He then runs over a deputy doing traffic, and that deputy passes away. Now we still have an investigation going here, and now unbeknownst to them, it's the father of that son in that car. So as a chief, once you find out that a deputy's been killed, and then you start getting in those reports that, oh, this is the father of the son that we shot and killed yesterday, what would be your next steps as chief, so we can get an idea on what the police were thinking and why they handled the situation the way they handled it?
From me, first and foremost, let's make sure that we don't have high emotions while we're going out. Sure, it's one of our own. Yes, and in the law enforcement community, that's not taken lightly, because it's a family. and one of our own, we go out. But again, professionalism above anything else must come to the forefront. Because again, we don't want to go out and make the situation any worse by going out blazing, doing something that can jeopardize what's already has already transpired. Let's go out professionally and do what needs to be done, and keeping our emotions under control as best as we possibly can. But again, we're still talking about human nature. And it's just like a family member. If something happens to that family member, obviously we want to do what we need to do. But we can't go out seeking retribution. Let's go out, secure the scene. If we have a person that we have that's as being wanted, go out, look for this person, bring them under control, bring them in, they're in custody. But it's not always as easy as I just tried to explain it, because we're still dealing with human beings and human emotions.
So they segregated him to another. The father was still on scene when they arrived to the accident. They took him into custody. I think they took him to a different county. They said for his safekeeping, and he was brought in for his bail hearing. And this is what started the community in an uproar. In that bail hearing, now this is just to see if he gets bail, there were 32 or 33 officers present in the courtroom for the bail hearing. Is that normal?
If there is a perceived threat, and you can look at this both ways. If you're doing this quote unquote for the protection of the person that's in custody, there may be a need for that. If there is other means of trying to show force, that we are doing this for what we want to show, a show of force on our end, okay. But again, each agency, each department has ways of doing whatever they feel like that needs to be done. And it's difficult to know without being there, without seeing a little bit more, without knowing some of the history or the culture of the agency and the area. It's just difficult to know. There are certain scenarios that you can play through in your mind and to see if there's any justification for it.
Would you allow Captain, Chief Simmons,
allow that many officers
to be
at a
present at a bail?
location within the courtroom?
Yes, sir.
I wouldn't see a need for over 30 officers being at a particular location. I wouldn't see a need for it. Now, is there a large crowd outside? Then we have to make sure that we are securing the court and keeping it safe. Okay, but why do I need them all inside? If the threat or a large crowd is gathering outside, we set up a perimeter. And again, this is not new to law enforcement. We've been at large gatherings before. If there's a large crowd gathering outside, or we feel like no one wants to overrun in and do something within the courts, okay, we can set up a perimeter and do what needs to be done. But within the court itself, inside the courtroom, that many officers, I haven't had an opportunity to experience anything of that nature and give some type of justification for it within the courts, that many officers.
And it was a crowd of outside, because remember, now there's an investigation going on for the son, and now the father is in this situation. But they weren't letting anyone else in the courtroom. Like, it was an empty courtroom. They blocked family, they blocked relatives, anybody from hearing. I mean, these are the people that were potentially getting released if there is a bail set. Now, they ended up not giving them a bail. But I like to think that's because there were 30 some officers in the courtroom like, look, you better not let this dude out. We're going to get him. That's what I'm thinking. I mean,
Mhm.
why, like you said, why else would there be 30 or 32 individuals inside the courtroom and all of the family and everybody else that could possibly do anything is outside? So I thought that was an unnecessary show of force. It's like bringing a tank to a kid's birthday party for security. You know, it's a little bit overkill. Um, and after that, the segregating them into not only to a different county, but then solitary confinement. Do you think that's in a situation like that, that's necessary to? I mean, this man, he just lost his son the night before, and this is within 1 week. They're arraigning him now in a week or so for the death penalty, and I haven't seen an investigation go that fast ever. Like, I don't even think the real footage has been released. Um, to 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 segregate him and then put him in solitary confinement, you think that's normal as well, based on the situation?
Now that's a little outside of the typical law enforcement parameters
Mhm.
within this particular jurisdiction. Is that norm? Is that procedure? These are the questions that would need to be asked to know, are they acting outside of that under whatever situation? Is this the practical way to do what we typically do, or are we doing something different? And then if we're doing it different, what's the justification for it?
Okay, so I know what I think. I know what I've seen before. I've seen a lot of stuff in the military all over the place. Different countries, different rules, different laws, different cities, different states, different towns, different leaders, all of those things. And we've heard from you now a lot of things that people probably don't stop and think about, like what is proper procedure at a stop, and how do you get people out? What happens if they start running? Uh, if there's an officer downed or an officer killed in the line of duty, what happens after that? A lot of people don't stop and think of how, like you said, human beings, even though they're officers, trained officers, how they're going to respond and react. Now, I'm going to take my post for a second, and now I want you to go back to just being dad. Take off T for a second. No, you go back to being dad. There's a call out. Your son has just been killed. They're calling you down to the precinct. You go and view the footage. What type of emotion do you think, as a father, because I'm a father myself, but I want to ask you, is what emotions do you think is going through your mind at that point in time?
Well, it's not going to be a very comforting for me what I'm hearing somebody else say to me when I've just lost my child. There's nothing that you can say that's going to comfort me, going to help me to understand. And if I get the opportunity, which I doubt, that you show me footage, give me an explanation, it's not going to help what I'm dealing with at that time. And depending on my type of mindset, what will I do in order to get back or to just get it out of me or to
Mm,
take some measure of getting something that's in me that's bottled up to release it, to just
right.
get it out. I got to do something. I just lost my son.
Okay.
And that, from person to person, I would not want to see anyone in that situation, but it happens. It has happened so many times before, and we've heard it and we've read it, we've seen it, and some of us have even witnessed it happen to others. And the news doesn't help my emotions right now or where they are because of who I am. And I need to do something, or can I just be the type of person that's just going to take it and go home and say, why? or am I going to take some sort of action because it shouldn't have happened in the first place? That type
Right.
of mindset.
And for me, I'm glad you said that, because for me it's almost the same way, because being militarily trained, you deal with death, a lot of death. But if it's something like that that's so close, so personal, it's hard to imagine the thoughts and stuff that'll go through your mind. Would I seek retribution right away? No. That's a short answer, is no. But it would take a lot for that no to take place. I would have to be lot. They sure wouldn't let me drive. No, they're taking the keys. I'm not going anywhere. I'm not going to be able to drive myself, because I'm in no state of mind to get behind the wheel of a vehicle because of what just happened the day before. I'm not. They're not. I know my family. They're not letting me drive anywhere, because there's no telling where I go or what I do. And as the information starts to come out, then I'll start formulating a plan and what I'm going to do to see that justice is done. But that's only because I've been trained in the military the way I'm trained. Uh, what's been said about this, the father, was that he was a straight guy, no criminal history.
Mm-hmm.
His son was a good student. He was trying to call home, and his uncle didn't get the messages to let him in the house, so he slept in the car with his friend. It's now been said that the car was just reported stolen by the uh, dealership because they were late on payment, and it wasn't actually a stolen vehicle. It would just need to be towed, I guess. Now it's saying that more coming out that the father wasn't even the driver in the situation, that there was another lady that was in the vehicle, and that lady passed away at the accident, but we've not heard anything about her. There are now eyewitnesses to the shooting coming out, and it's just this roller coaster thing. All the while, here I am, the dad. I'm sitting in jail now. My family has not only lost a nephew, but they've lost an uncle too. So, because I'm in jail, the son is gone, and now ain't no telling where his mind is at.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
for you, what you explained was how the other side is responding, and we know how we are on this side. But I'm glad you were able to give some insight as to how they are approaching the situation. It may look all crazy to us. Oh man, they're lying, they're this, they're hiding stuff, they're
Mm-hmm.
doctoring footage. But what you said, there are protocols, there are rules, regulations, and even other laws that prevent you from putting things out the way the public would like to, because you're going to be
Mm-hmm.
under pressure to do so.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm glad you were able to put, like, not a lid on some of it, but actually just give some understanding as to how the mindset of the officers work. Now, if this is in your precinct, this Montgomery, Alabama, 2022, right before you leave this house, what is a word or what is some thoughts that you would give the citizens of the city in order to keep them from tearing it to the ground? Because it's one of those powder kegs that could ignite at any moment. What
Mm-hmm.
would you say, or even if would it be ill-advised to do so, to come out and speak to the public as the chief about the situation? What what would you say?
If you have your hand on the pulse of your community, that will help you determine whether you should speak to them to that, as far as you being this person to say it, or you may designate someone else who may have a better pulse on the community to speak, if you speak at all. Sometime within your best intentions, it's not going to be accepted by everyone in a positive way, even though you may not have any intention of trying to add fuel to the fire. You want to say something comforting, or to let them know that your investigation is going to be concluded, and it is going to show you, and you are going to not do anything to uh, hide, or to make it seem as if you're covering things up. But again, if you have had that type of relationship with your community, then you may be able to speak to them, and they know by your character, your past, what you have done for them in the past, and the relationships that you have within the community. They will know that from what they know of you, yes, he's being truthful. That's just the way he is, or we know how he is. He's shown us in the past what we can depend and rely on. If your agency has been under fire from things and it hasn't been shown that you've been truthful and totally transparent in the past, sometimes the best thing to say is nothing.
Mm. And towards the end of your career, is that, first of all, is community relations a lost art, so to speak, or is it just impossible to keep up with the pace of life right now?
If an agency, a department, does not have community relations within its parameters, it's a lost cause. Because again, that's what you're there for. You're there for the community, and those within it look to you to do exactly what your motto says: serve and protect. But if that's hasn't been a part of what you have done, what you will continue to do, you will not be able to go far with being able to bring the community close together and have that trust within you and your agency. Is a lost cause. And we're not seeing as much in the way of community relations right now, especially here in the area where I am.
Mm.
And there's not a lot of, we as what we call the old heads, when we look back at how we were brought up in law enforcement, we're not seeing those same things. They're not, the type of community relations is just not there the way we had it 30, 40 years ago. And it shows.
Because I remember, and it definitely showed, I remember there used to be a beat cop, so to speak, I guess you would call
Oh
them,
yeah.
that actually walked the neighborhood. And you can
Yes.
talk to them. Those guys you just see them sitting in their cars now. They don't interact with the people. They just sit in the car and they wait. You can walk right past. I know even now, even as a 20-year retired service member, veteran, disabled, all the above. When I see a cop, I get kind of iffy. Or a police officer. Let me use the correct term. A police officer. I still get kind of iffy. Is he coming to say something to me? Or like, what did I do something to make him look at me, or should I even look at him? And then I still have to teach boys, sons, grandsons, other people I interact with, how to interact with police officers when it's time to. I kind of sort of feel safe, but then I don't, because I know what's been happening, like you said before. And I know what can happen now in this situation if it's not handled properly. I mean, the city of Cincinnati is on edge. And like you said, there's either a way you can say it or not say it. I wouldn't want to be in that guy's shoes, I'll tell you that much. But if he gets it wrong, it could be riots. And as a prior National Guardsman, I'm not looking to go help police my own community that way either. So it's a very delicate and fragile situation. But I think those of us that have listened to you have learned a little bit about how and why the approach is the way it is, and not to just blindly say, forget the police in so many words. They're going to be liars. They're going to be this. I think about 95, 96% of the force does their job correct. Would you agree to that much, or is it a little bit less, a little bit more?
Because again, even now, when I still engage with my fellow officers, it's very disheartening for us as those who have carried out our duties as responsible as we can to see what is happening to this profession. Uh, there is absolutely no way we would accept this type of behavior from one of our fellow officers. Um, we have had the opportunity to address other officers. Hey, man, what are you doing? Well, we don't do that. And we pull them aside and we have these dialogues and we bring some type of understanding as to what we're doing and why we're doing it. Maybe it was something personal that happened at home that day or whatever the case may be. But we came to the aid of each other because, again, we realized that this is a family. A lot of times when we show up on a scene, we're all we got until help arrives.
Right.
And if you do not know how to use the tact that you are trained with to neutralize and to bring down a situation, you really probably have chosen the wrong profession to be in. Sometimes officers don't have all the patience they need to have when they're on a scene or on a call. And if there's a senior officer there, then that's when you step in with that leadership and say, officer, whatever, I got it. Let me talk to this person for a minute. If you don't mind, ma'am, sir, can you step this way and let's talk. Tell me, explain to me, say to me what's going on. And then you bring a resolution to it by your demeanor, because people can size you up the same way you size them up as to whether or not they can have a decent conversation with you. And a lot of times that's all the situation calls for, is how you approach it and the way you approach it with your demeanor.
Yes, sir. So for those of us that have been watching this wonderful officer break down what we sometimes fail to see, which is the other side of the coin, or behind the curtains that goes on inside police precincts with their culture and their training. He gave us some insight into a very general and broad spectrum of what happens. Now, as Dad has said, it's different by cities and different by precincts, areas in which you live in, things of that nature. But what we must do as the public is, as what they're supposed to do, is take a step back, control emotion, see what's really happened, see the evidence as it comes out, and then search for justice. Don't condone it, but I mean, can I say I understand it? Yes, because his emotions were probably high, and ain't no telling what people can do until they're pushed to that limit. But if there's something else that's about to happen, I want to say, just realize that there's other humans on the other side as well, and they're probably going through it just as bad as Dad is going through it. Now, he's lost a son, but as my dad has just said, the other officers lost a family member too, and it's just a crazy situation to deal with. But I'm glad you were able to give insight and knowledge about the actual profession on the officer side, not from our side, which we sometimes never really know. We just go by what we hear, and what people have said, and the horror stories that have come from, things like, because that young man got shot in 6 seconds. I don't know what comes on the scene to make an officer go from seeing a scene to shooting someone in 6 seconds. Don't want to be in that situation. I think of like Tamir Rice, the 12-year-old boy playing in the park, also pulled up and shot him in 2 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what command you can give a 12-year-old, whether you're a stranger or your child, that they're going to follow in 2 seconds.
Right.
I don't know, but it's something that has been happening to us in our community, and a lot of people are tired. A lot of people are fed up, and they're tired of being urged to take the high ground. But they're tired of being told, we'll get justice the other way, the easy way. Well, why can't they get it? They can't pass out justice the right way, which is what some people ask. It's all the way around. I don't know. I'm lost for words on it, but I thank you for all your service to the state of Alabama, the city of Montgomery, the years that you were on service, and the number of lives I'm sure you impacted and helped and changed, and the men and women that you tutored and trained over all the years. So I appreciate your service to the people. And I just hope that we can use this video and then combine it with others to make sure that people have a better understanding about the other side. So we're just not quick to jump to conclusions. We kind of know what they're going to do because we've seen this playbook before, but now we're armed with more information. So now we can approach it a little bit more tactfully and without riots. And, we can still protest and things like that, but I don't think we have to care enough to get justice for this young man or for this father. Right. So, Dad, it's been a great. Any last thoughts or anything that you would like to say to anyone about the situation, or any other things you'd like to let me know before we go?
Well, just one final thing I would like to say to the law enforcement community. Let's not wait until situations happen before we engage our communities. There are opportunities we have all the time to be engaged with and to share and to get closer to one another as a community. Because again, the same community that I have to police, I have to live in that community. Why not make it a family or a loving community that wants to share and engage and to be a part of each other? And the more we do that, when situations do happen, it tends to make it that much easier to get through it. Yes. Maybe not completely understand it, but to get through it without knowing that the worst will continue to happen, without knowing that we are there for each other.
I thank you, Dad. I appreciate those. I hope they heard you. Because there's not a lot of trust in law enforcement right now.
Yep.
Once you've lost trust, it's kind of hard to get that back.
Yep.
So, Dad, it's time for you to get your day started. Say hello to the rest of America for me. We're going to say good afternoon over here and good morning to you. I thank you. This has been a show the show called My Father and I, Marcus Bradley, host of the XY Perspective. My dad, as always, with the knowledge and the instinct that he's brought from so many years of being dad. Dad, let's wait till the next show. I don't know when that's going to be, but what topic we have, I'm sure we'll be ready for it.
Amen, son. Anytime.
Yes, sir. Thanks, sir. We will talk soon. Love you.
Love you too.